Oops.
Careful.
Okay.
Well,
Goodness.
here we are again,
Yep.
inside.
Inside.
Inside
Very
Time.
hot.
Welcome to our show. This is Inside Times with Cynthia White and
Hero.
Hero.
Uh-huh.
And we are bringing to you live from Kids Hurt to Hawaii information about grief and trauma and other stuff. So if you have questions, please include them in the comments section and we'll try to answer any questions that come up. And so aloha. It's another beautiful day in Hawaii and we're inside. Inside Times
Very hot.
was started to provide this educational opportunity as well as called Inside Times because we've been in quarantine off and on since March.
Right.
And so things are moving very slowly as we progress through
There's
this
another
pandemic.
riot or protest in Louisville.
Yeah, we
So,
have this.
Kentucky.
Our country has so many difficulties right now, and the pandemic is, of course, top of the list. And I want to address that. This creates a lot of pain in people's lives that they are grieving multiple losses. Thank you, Hero. Sorry about that. That's our bus, our local bus. People are grieving multiple losses, loss of income, loss of job, loss of security. That's a huge one. In dealing with the unknown is a really hard thing for many, many people. Not knowing what the future holds, that's just a very anxiety producing experience. It can also generate what they call anticipatory grief.
Right.
Meaning that we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know, where we're going to be in a week or two. It's just really difficult for people to live in so much uncertainty in our time. So we want to encourage all of you to be patient, be kind to one another, and to try to ride these waves of change. We're having some waves of change at Kids Hurt Too once again. I think you all met our ED, Tanya Wildbill, and I'm sad to say she is leaving the island, and the pandemic has really disrupted her life. She moved to Hawaii, and with the intention of bringing her children here, but then the pandemic hit, and nobody's been able to go anywhere safely. And so she's going back because her children need her, and she needs her children too. So it's a time like this, you really need family, and
separate can be very painful.
Separated from a parent
It's
is
like
a loss. It is,
I can remember, I had a lot
you
of
were
pain.
separated from your dad, and that was
very painful.
Yeah.
And mom too.
Right, but
Brother.
but she had died.
Right.
And that you couldn't do anything about, but your dad was coming to visit and then leaving, and
it was kind of harder because why he couldn't pick us up?
Can't take
Can
you home.
Can I go with you? Can you take me home? Stuff like that. Little kids don't understand. Situation.
They don't.
I'm sure he tried to explain, but that was very painful.
Well, I know when I was in foster care, separated from my entire family, my mother tells me that she visited me in the foster homes, and I don't remember it. I have no recollection. And so what I remember is that she never came to see me. That's how I remember it. But she tells the story of, walking the miles it took to get from the bus stop to where I was living, and having to go from one home to the other because I had 5 other siblings, and then we were all in different homes. And so it's interesting what we do and don't remember. And in general, when you're young, pain is hard to remember. We usually, like, you have a surgery, after a while, we don't remember the pain. It just seems like our bodies, because they can recover from that pain very quickly or thoroughly, just lets us forget, And I think
Coping mechanism.
I think is part of it, and nobody wants to remember pain.
Right.
Yes, but I remember being in pain as a child. I remember being in despair, the pain of despair, and of course, living in despair as a child is not a very good. There's Jamie. Hi. Oh, you've never
Jamie Yoshida-san.
heard of anticipatory
Hey.
grief? Yes, thank you for joining us today. Yeah, anticipatory grief is a very common term in hospice work. I did hospice work back in the 80s. Our goal was to prepare people for the loss of their loved one. That's for the family members who were surviving. And what I learned, and so anticipatory grief was how we address that, and it's a common term. But I learned very quickly back in the 80s that you can't really anticipate grief.
Right.
You can only grieve.
Right.
So in some ways, I'm not happy with that term, because you cannot anticipate what it feels like to have a loss. You cannot anticipate what it's going to mean to you.
You cannot prepare for the grief, and you cannot.
You just can live it.
Yeah.
Just live it. But remembering pain, going back to that, because I want to talk more about the idea of the purpose in pain. If pain had a purpose, like certainly pain has a purpose in our body, right?
Right.
Because
let you know.
Yeah, let you know something hurts. Ow, I need this. I need to see a doctor. If we didn't have pain in our body, we wouldn't pay attention to things that might be going wrong. So pain actually tells us that something needs attention. Pain tells us something needs to be healed.
Sorry, it's just so noisy.
You want to turn on the other fan?
I do.
We can get some air.
Hot.
We're adjusting. It's a hot day. How's everybody else doing in this hot summer that has turned to fall? But so,
I had Japan get a little bit cooler now.
Oh, that's
a little
nice.
bit. So my dad said that it's been hottest
summer. It's been a hot summer
in
all
95
over.
years.
Yeah.
Said-
I mean, he's
he
95
said
years
he's 95
old.
years
You
old.
should know.
Right.
And your dad, he survived the war. He was
World
like,
War II.
traumatized by that war, and he remembers what happened, but he probably doesn't remember the pain, the physical pain of it.
He got
Maybe
exploded.
not even
The bomb exploded.
Yeah.
He got a lot of pain, broke his arms and everything.
But he probably doesn't remember that pain. He can tell the story about it, and we can often tell the stories, but to remember pain is a little bit more challenging, and hopefully we don't remember pain because we actually are able to move through it, to recover from it, to be healed by it. So yes, if you have some kind of physical pain, you're going to go see a doctor, and you're going to have it checked out, and you're going to get well. Grief pain is a little different. Grief and trauma pain are real. They are physical suffering. It's not just emotional. It's not just mental. It is a physical experience, and I think grievers can attest to that more so, because when you're grieving somebody really intensely, you've lost somebody close, then that grief can cause the body to just hurt. Heartaches. Children often talk about feeling pain in their body, arm aches, headaches, stomach aches. They are often talking about having these sensations in their body. I know that is from their grief. that is a pain of their grief. And of course, we always make sure to encourage parents to check out any health issues if this is chronic or ongoing. But it's a physical sensation in the body.
I remember, when I miss, my dad, kind of just my heart goes like, somebody is almost squeeze my chest or like a heart.
Like you were breaking into.
Yeah, I remember that. Just then there's nothing I could do because that was different kind of thing. Nobody can see it. It does give you a scar.
It does.
Nobody can see it again.
So pain does have a purpose. I remember once listening to somebody and he said, never waste pain. Never waste your pain. The pain is there. It has a purpose. I think when you're in it, it doesn't feel like it has a purpose. It just hurts. So it's important to find ways to heal, to find ways to feel better. And let me talk a little bit about
Can I say one thing?
quantum physics after you say one thing. Go ahead.
Because there's a sports, because I've been athlete,
Okay.
and then there's a word say no pain, no gain.
Right.
So we know.
That's right.
See, no pain, no gain.
When
If you don't feel pain, you don't gain.
It's because you get little tears in your muscle, and,
I don't know,
and then they have to build up, and Yep.
That's a train.
I never believed in that. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm not a sports person.
Oh, okay.
So, but I want to talk. So I want to quantum physics. In quantum physics, there's something called the principle of interference. Actually, it's physics. It's not necessarily quantum physics.
Okay.
But the principle of interference. And I love this principle because it is a great metaphor for the importance of supporting children or getting support for ourselves. And so let me just read to everybody what interference is. Now, interference we usually talk about in terms of a wave function. So, for example, if you have a very calm pool of water and you drop a pebble into the water, you get waves. Right. So the principle of interference is the phenomenon that occurs when two waves meet while traveling along the same medium. So if you drop two stones into the calm water, then you have two pools of waves, right? Two waves. So the interference of waves causes the medium to take on a shape that results from the net effect of the two individual waves upon the particles of the medium. I never really understand it when I read it, but here's how I've come to recognize what that means. First of all, when you drop one pebble, let's say, for example, we have one child grieving alone in isolation, can't talk to anybody, nobody's talking to that child. That's that pebble in the water, and their grief is the waves. And that wave will continue on until something interferes with it. So here's the interesting thing about the principle of interference. Let's say you've got two people who are grieving, a child and a parent, and I use those examples because that's what we always have. So you have two grievers, and they are both grieving because of, let's say, the loss of a parent. So then you got two pebbles, and you got two waves. Okay, so in that situation, if the waves meet so that both peaks of the waves meet at the same time, you know what happens?
They're gonna...
Nope, you get a bigger wave.
Oh, okay.
The wave gets bigger, so the grief is bigger, it's more intense, the wave is bigger. The interference is for the wave to get bigger. But guess what? If the waves meet and one has a dip in it, and the other one has a, you know, what? The
What is
other
it?
one's rising up, the other one's coming down, and they meet. You know what happens then? Then they cancel each other out, and the water returns to calm again. Now, why this is so important is that in understanding grief and the why we need support is that in a family, they're all going through grief. They're going through grief is different for everybody, but they've experienced, I don't want to say the same loss, because it's different when when a father dies than when a mother dies. It's different when a child loses a parent or a mother or a father than when a child loses a sibling or a grandparent. You know, there are so many differences, and differences you can't even begin to count. But in a sense, they're all of their waves are often colliding so that their peaks are hitting, and instead of their
The peaks and the
return
waves
to
kind of.
calm, instead of return to calm, then things can get really intense. The waves become more intense. When you bring people together who have similar experiences, but their own unique grief, different losses, then, and people like our volunteers who are there just as to represent that dip, you know, in that wave, that trough. So those of us who are there as support people, we're the trough, and you.
What's the trough?
The dip.
Oh,
in the
okay,
wave.
dip. Okay.
Yeah, you got your peaks, and then you have your valleys, so to speak. So we're kind of the valley in a sense. We're the dip in the wave, and when their peak meets our dip, you get calm. Okay, so you're bringing these people together to create this environment, because remember, it's about the medium. So our medium is grief work, our medium is support group, our medium is mentoring, our medium is each other coming together for healing.
So for the soul too, medium.
All of these activities, they're medium. And so we're all in it together. But you need that, and I think of our volunteers as love. You need that love to meet the pain, to cancel out the suffering.
Wow.
So
cool.
Love meets pain, it cancels out the suffering. So the pain is like that.
Has to be
peak.
Unconditional love, though.
Of course, yes, you're right there. And then love is kind of like that trough, that dip. And when they meet, calmness results. I get excited when I think about these things. I know it's maybe more complicated than it needs to be when I'm thinking about it, you know. But it's just so special to see it happen. You can see that calmness happen in children so quickly when they know instantly that they're unconditionally loved and accepted. And you know why they know instantly? Because it's the energy. They pick up energy in their body. They will pick up the energy of judgment. They will pick up the energy of fear. They will pick up the energy of anger. And I've lost track of here we go.
Jamie?
Jamie has something to say. Jamie, some of the pain is so old and some so much more recent. I'm relating to all your stories today. I can't wait to hear about some of the techniques you use with the kids. You both are amazing. Oh, thank you. And the work you do. Thank you.
I love you too, Jamie.
Yes.
And then Renee, your mom, so sweet.
Yeah, very sweet. You have been such an asset to Kinsert 2 and the children we serve.
Big Gary of Honolulu families are so honest, so sweet.
Yeah.
We love
Look forward to.
We went to Tohoku with Jamie. We see Jamie, and then we went to the Tohoku, then Rikuzentakara, then we are in the middle of the, these waves and trough and love and everything. Yeah. That was a good trip.
Yeah. And I like that you bring up that some pain is old and some is new, because I am always like emphasizing the reality for all of us that pain is in the body. Pain is in the here and now. It doesn't matter how long ago a loss was. It doesn't matter how recent. When you experience grief, it's here and now. It's right now. Time is not a factor. It is your capacity to experience in the moment that grief. And sometimes you don't have a choice. So here's the thing. When you have that pain come up, this is what I would really like people to learn, is that when that pain comes up, like let's say it was 50 years ago the loss occurred.
Hey, my mother died 50 years ago.
Oops. Exactly. Sorry, I just...
I don't have a lot of pain, but I have a love instead
That's
now.
right. That's right. So let's just say, though, you did have pain come up, in the current day. It's really about you in the here and now, something you are needing. So the pain comes up. It's important to really study it. It's like when you have a physical pain, you go to a doctor and they study it. They run tests, and they figure it out.
Right.
When we have grief pain, we really need to focus on it and study it.
How?
By journaling, drawing, sharing with others, looking at pictures, noticing in our bodies what we're feeling, where it's at in our bodies, and to really pay attention. That pain is information. Okay, it's information. Or you could also say it is information. So there's something being formed. There is something, that pain comes up for a reason. That pain comes up because there's something you need in your grief, in your own grief process, in that moment in time, And moments change, right? So it's not going to be the same thing today as it was tomorrow. But when it comes up, really notice, what is it? If you're missing somebody, what is it you're missing about that person? Exactly, what is it in that moment? Because you can't miss everything about a person at the same time. You can miss the person, but really focus in and ask yourself, what is it that person meant to me? What did they give me or teach me? And in some ways, by doing that, you stay connected to the person who's gone.
Right.
You keep that relationship. Remember, I always say people may die or go away, but relationships are forever. Because we need those relationships in our lives. They're teaching us about who we are. And so if we look at it and really focus in, then we can better understand what we need in the moment around our own grief work. What is it in the moment that our bodies, our hearts, our minds, our souls, whatever part you want to identify with, what is it that is trying to form in us? What is the information? So coming to support group, is a one way to really work with the information and to transform it. That's what children do. They do it in play or in beadwork. We can do it in paintings. We can do it in dramatic play, doctor play. We see a lot of doctor play. The children are just kind of naturally doing it and having fun with it. We as adults have a little harder time because we have a tendency to just keep it in our heads. And when it just stays in your head and you don't move it somewhere else, then it becomes almost like a
back to your body?
A broken record.
Oh, okay.
It becomes, it just repeats and it repeats, and the pain just continues and continues. And, it's almost like the pain will not go away or will not resolve until you get it, until you find what it is you're needing, till you develop that part of yourself. I've used this example before, I think, in Inside Times, is when I was first doing work with bereaved people. I was working with a widow whose husband had done everything.
Oh, yeah,
You know,
right,
he
right,
paid all
right.
the bills. Yeah, you've heard the story.
Mhm.
So she came to me in a session once, and she was suffering so much from missing him. And I said, what is it that you miss exactly right now? What is it you're missing about him? And she talked about how he always paid the bills, and she didn't know how to pay the bills, and they were just piled up, and you know, she didn't know what to do. So I said, well, tell me more about how he paid the bills. What did he do? And she went into great detail describing how he paid those bills. And then I was kind of like, oh, well, why don't you do it that way? And she just lit up and suddenly realized, oh, yeah, I could do it the way he did it.
Right.
She stopped being in so much pain. She stopped missing him in that moment. Okay, doesn't mean she's not going to miss him again.
Right.
Because in that moment, she found the information that he, through his existence in her life, was communicating and had taught her, and the resource that he still had for her to remember and learn and be able to do it herself. I mean, that really taught me a lot about grief work at that time. And, you know, I've seen it over and over and over again. I just like to use that example. That was a long time ago because, you know, it's just such a good example, you know, but I have so many I could think of. With children, it's different. You don't get examples like that with children because children tend to always be working in the symbolic world, in the realm of images and metaphors and symbols. And too hot for you, is it?
It's hot.
Yeah. And anyway, so they play, and that's their process. If we were more playful as adults, you know, we could transform our energy and find the information much more quickly.
Yeah, that's what Jamie does.
That's what Jamie does. Yeah. She gets people to bring chaos, bring order out of chaos. So you bring all those beads together, and they're just chaotic, and then you create something beautiful out of it. That's what we're talking about. Very, yes. And that's the same process that I'm talking about, is that you have to focus on and choose which bead and what bead, and you don't really have to. Sometimes you could just do it randomly. But the key here is you take what is in front of you and you bring order to it. You create something from it. Mm-hmm. And if we understood that grief is a signal that something in us needs to grow, something in us needs to change and evolve, and that relationship of the, you know, to the person who's gone is helping with that. That connection is still there. That connection is giving you the information you need to grow and evolve. So people, you know, when they go away or they die, you know, they can't physically be here, but that relationship is still giving you information. You learn something from them. And often you don't know what all you've learned from somebody until they're gone. We don't know all the roles that they filled, all the ways that they've meant something to us until they're gone, which is heartbreaking, you know, when you think about it.
I don't want to think about it.
No. So once they are gone, then you begin to kind of mine that information. You kind of begin to bring it out. I often think about gold diggers. Is that what they are? Gold miners. Gold miners. No. Gold miners. You know, they're out there. Let's say there's a giant rock and they're pounding on that rock, and they don't know what's inside, but they think there's gold in there. They believe that there's gold in there.
Right.
And sometimes they get lucky and they break that rock open and there it is. And sometimes they break it open and it's not there. But that's what you're doing in a way. You're like kind of chipping away at that rock to find the gold inside. Chipping away at that pain to find the purpose. What is the purpose of that pain? It is there to teach you something. It is there to guide you. It is there to enlarge you, to develop you. So let us encourage you all in your journey. We know that this is a really tough time, and that the grief is so complex right now that there probably can't be a whole lot of mining, and finding
Right.
purpose. If anything, realizing the importance of family, that
Friends
certainly
and-
is
yeah.
in everyone's for in everybody's mind, is that, I'm sorry, I can't get all the words out today, but just
Comic
finding,
relief.
yeah, thank you. So yes, we hope that you all are going to stay well, stay safe,
It's good to
take
have.
care of one
Yeah.
another. It's
Right.
good to have what?
Good to have you, and we talk, and we're so lucky.
Right, that is true. We are very lucky to have each other because we
Right.
can debrief with each
Mhm.
other. We can process our pain. We can learn
Right.
about ourselves and help each other.
Yeah.
Learn that pain means and what we're trying to discover and how we're
Right.
trying to grow, and
Right.
and we're able to grow together. I think a lot of times relationships grow apart, or they just kind of stay the same. But we've done a lot in our relationship, in our marriage, and we've grown a lot. 23 years.
23 years. My favorite number.
Yeah.
Um,
So we hope that you all can be sustained, that you have what you need, you have the food you need, you have the funds you need, and you have each other. I think it's been really hard for Tanya because she's been away
yeah.
from all of her family and alone, and had to do all of that through this pandemic, and it's still happening. And I really am happy that she's going to be able to be reunited with her children, and she's been very patient and worked hard, and really brought Kids Hurt 2 to a great place.
Right.
We're really happy for her service, and hopefully someday when it's all safe, and
She can come back.
come back
Welcome her.
and
With the children, with the girls.
and see how we've continued to build on what you've created for us. So we want to say aloha to Tanya.
Yeah.
This is a loss. I'm personally very sad about it. She was really working hard and doing a great job and moving us forward.
But it was fun.
And it's hard to move forward in a pandemic, I'm gonna tell you. So she really had a hard job, but she did well, and we're gonna try to honor her service by continuing the projects that she created for us to benefit children in Hawaii and perhaps all over the world if we can really pull this off.
Right.
So please support us. Please donate to Kids Hurt 2 at PayPal Me, at Kids Hurt 2, Kids Hurt 2 Hawaii. I think PayPal Me /Kids Hurt 2 Hawaii. I couldn't get it up today. Somehow Facebook has changed some things, and now I have technical problems. Yeah, it's not working the same.
Whew.
So I hadn't realized that until I opened it up, and I was like, what? And so,
We have a lot of tech savvy people, So.
yeah.
Oh, can I share one thing? It's completely
Sure.
different thing. I got a new toy. This glasses. What is this? This to keep my eyes safe.
Yes, we got
I just learned.
protective goggles and mask.
Mask and this goggle. It's a reader. It is a reading.
And they're readers.
Yeah.
They're reading goggles.
See?
Doesn't he look handsome? Thank you for joining us today. Have a good week. Aloha.
Aloha. Bye. Mata na.